Life is all about hard choices, and sometimes we just don't know what to do. Like that piece of cheesecake in the fridge that's been there for 8 days. Should you eat it? Sure. Is it going to give you the squirts? Yeah, more than likely it will. Should you be honest with your wife or girlfriend when they try on a new dress and it makes their butt look too fat? And you don't mean the pH kind. You could. You can always ice your face, and after all, the couch isn't that uncomfortable. Could you grow a mustache that's as majestic as a bald eagle humping the American flag? Sure, you could, but you wouldn't be allowed within 500 yards of a school or playground. Over here at the Fantasy Headliners, we can't help you make all those type of tough life decisions, but what we can do is help you and your fantasy football team deciding if you should draft or pass. What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there, and today we got some running backs that we need to discuss. Some guys here, after the bigger names are off the board, that have a lot of question marks this year. Should you draft them or just pass on them come draft day? Like I said, we got 3 running backs we're talking about today, so make sure you stick around, hit that like button. You don't want to miss out on this information, and we're not going to waste a whole lot of time. We're going to get right into it, and the first name we're going to be talking about is somebody who we were really high on last year. It's Mark Ingram, running back of the Baltimore Ravens. We loved him so much, we even made a video solely on him, trying to tell everyone last year how much of a must-have he really was. Now, not too many people agreed with us, but then Mark Ingram went out and finished as the running back 8 in fantasy football half-point PPR scoring. What's really impressive, though, is he did it without getting crazy volume. He played in 15 games, but only had a total of 202 carries. That's 13.5 carries per game. He only had 2 games all year in which he had more than 15 touches on the ground. Yet, he still managed to get 1,108 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, racked in 26 receptions for 247 yards, and another 5 touchdowns through the air. He averaged 5 yards per carry. That's the second highest average of his career. And the 15 total touchdowns, yes, that was a career high by a long shot. Efficiency was really the name of the game in 2019 for Mark Ingram. He finished top 10 in red zone touches with 46 and yards per touch at 5.6. Also, goal line carries, 13 of them he had in 2019. Baltimore was constantly playing with a lead and running over everyone non-stop. But old man Ingram, he had a little bit of a wiggle in his step last year. He averaged 5.3 evaded tackles a game and was number 1 in the NFL among all running backs in juke rate. Now you're sitting there probably laughing, saying, what the heck are we talking about? What's a juke rate? Well, just to make it a little bit more simpler to understand, juke rate is the amount of touches divided by the amount of evaded tackles. It shows the elusiveness, and he had it in 2019. So what changes in 2020 now? Not that much, actually. They did draft J.K. Dobbins, who is the future there. Don't get me wrong. I love Dobbins. And going forward, 2021 and on, more than likely this will be his backfield. Mark Ingram, he's 31 years old, and there's a potential out in his contract after this year. Given the fact he isn't dependent on huge volume, though, and he plays on the best running team in the league, I can't hate Mark Ingram this year. What makes it better, though, is he's currently running back 22 with an ADP of almost 50th overall. Right now, sitting at 49.7. That's 4th, 5th round, depending on your league size. With that being said, at that price, with a lower risk, where I'm not that dependent on the huge volume, do I draft or pass on Mark Ingram here in 2020? I draft him. Moving on to Sony Michel, somebody who we've got a lot of questions about recently. This bandwagon has been almost deserted at this point after a less than spectacular 2019, I guess you could say. We just talked about all the efficiency of Mark Ingram, right? Well, Sony Michel is basically the exact opposite of that. He only averaged 3.7 yards per carry, and despite getting 247 carries last season, only 6 of them went for more than 15 yards. So the big plays, they just weren't there. However, the volume's there, right? 247 carries is not bad, and with volume comes opportunity. Well, in 2019, he still received 45 red zone touches and 8 goal line carries, both of those numbers finishing inside the top 15 in the NFL. But the Patriots, They look a little bit different now, right? I mean, no Tom Brady, a few holes on defense. Is this offense going to be the same or even resemble last year's offense? I mean, what does that mean for Sony Michel here in 2020? Well, we know that Bill Belichick likes to run. He always has. He's had a team top 10 in the NFL in rush attempts 12 out of the last 15 seasons. But we have a backfield still full of running backs. You have Sony Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead, Damian Harris, Brandon Bolden. And if we know anything, it's that it's almost impossible to figure out which back Belichick is going to go with. Now, Sony Michel isn't a bad value in drafts. He's currently right now running back 32 with an ADP of 86.7. For me, though, I really don't see myself owning much Sony Michel. At his ADP, I'm hoping that by that point, I already have 3 or 4 running backs on my roster, and I'll be looking to work on my wide receiver depth, maybe a quarterback or a tight end. But drafts are fluid and always moving, so if I'm desperate for a running back, he may be the best available in this area. Personally, I would go with Jordan Howard in this, similar area over Sony Michel. So if you're asking me personally if I'm going to draft or pass on Sony Michel personally at that ADP, even though it's a good value, more than likely, I'm passing. Moving on to Derrius Guice, and this is somebody who I had a lot of expectations for coming into the draft. I love the talent, I love the skill set, I love the opportunity that he had. The problem is a lot of people just don't get to see it because dude is always hurt. He's only played in 5 games the last 2 years combined. Now, when he's played, he's showed flashes of amazingness, don't get me wrong. He's averaging 5.8 yards per carry and 11.3 yards per reception and has 3 touchdowns in those 5 games. He's also second among all running backs in yards created per touch with 3.33 yards. However, he doesn't have enough carries to really qualify to get into the leaderboard. Here's the issue, though. Guice isn't a Ron Rivera guy, so he's not really tied to him. Adrian Peterson, he's still in town, and despite being eligible for AARP at this point, he didn't play horrible last year. Adrian Peterson averaged 4.3 yards per carry, his highest since 2015, and had over 1,000 total yards and 5 touchdowns. The offensive line didn't get any major upgrades here in the offseason, and don't forget they drafted Antonio Gibson, a player in which Ron Rivera loves so much he even likened his skill set to that of Christian McCaffrey. What about Bryce Love? I mean, he hasn't played a game yet, and he's recovering from multiple knee surgeries, but this guy was a beast in college, even having a season in 2017 where he rushed for 2,100 yards. I mean, we know they love Terry McLaurin. They drafted Antonio Gandy Golden on the outside, so there's a chance they want to throw more. The offensive coordinator in Washington now, Scott Turner, led the Panthers offense last year to the most pass attempts in the NFL in 2019. Sure, that's because the Panthers were always losing, but are our hopes super high that the Redskins are going to be working with a lot of late game leads as of right now? No, probably not. He's currently running back 30 with an ADP of 83, right around the 7th round or so. It just doesn't appeal to me. There's too many question marks at this time. The new coaching staff, multiple options on the depth chart, additions to the passing game, and an inability to stay healthy. I hate it because I love the talent of Derrius Guice, but in my opinion, this year, do I draft or do I pass? I pass on Derrius Guice. All right, so there's 3 running backs that have a lot of questions right around the middle rounds or so. Hopefully this video gave you enough information to go back to your draft strategy and either circle them or highlight them or just cross them off in big, bold Sharpie. Whichever one it is, hopefully those decisions are now a little bit easier. We'll continue these videos all off season. So by the time your fantasy draft comes around, you have a good idea of the players you like and the players you don't like. That's what it's all about, and we like to stay interactive. So make sure you hit up that comment section down below with any fantasy football questions you might have. Myself, Kyle, Chris, another member of Headliner Nation, will do our best to get back to every comment on every video. That's what we're really striving for here in this offseason. Greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you hit that like button, and if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing because we got videos like this coming out almost every day at this point. We appreciate you guys. Hopefully you have a great rest of your week. Look forward to talking to you. Have a good one. Thanks. Bye.